In 1976, a private jet left Memphis at 2 in the morning. Its mission? Fly Elvis 1,000 miles to Denver for a sandwich. A hollowed-out loaf stuffed with a jar of peanut butter, a jar of jam, and a pound of bacon. That sandwich is number 1 on this list. Number 14 was so charred his own cook thought she had ruined it. Number 3 became his signature, still made by fans today. Elvis had unlimited money and a kitchen that never closed. He ate like a man trying to fill something no meal ever could. Hit subscribe and let us count down the 20 foods that fed the king until his body gave out. Number 20. Sauerkraut and wieners. Before the mansions and the gold records, Elvis Presley was a poor boy from Tupelo, Mississippi, and the food he loved as a king never strayed far from the food he ate as a child. Sauerkraut and wieners was one of the cheapest suppers a family could put on the table. A can of tangy fermented cabbage simmered with a package of cheap hot dogs until the whole pot went soft and sour and salty. A package of wieners cost pennies. The sauerkraut came in a jar that lasted for months. Even at Graceland, with a kitchen staffed around the clock, Elvis would ask for it, and his cooks would make it, because the biggest star in the world still had the appetite of a boy who grew up with nothing. It was humble. It was heavy. And he never gave it up. Number 19. Crowder peas. These were not the fancy peas from a supermarket freezer. Crowder peas were southern field peas, cousins to the black-eyed pea, cooked low and slow with a spoonful of bacon grease until they broke down into a thick, muddy, savory pot. Elvis grew up eating them at a table where meat was scarce and a pot of peas fed everyone. His grandmother, Minnie Mae, who lived at Graceland until the end, cooked them the old way. The peas swelled and split, thickening their own liquor into something you could sop up with cornbread. A bag of dried Crowder peas cost almost nothing and stretched across days. For a man who could have flown a French chef to Memphis on a whim, Elvis kept reaching for the peas that reminded him of a 2-room shack. Number 18. Fried okra. Cut into thin coins, dredged in cornmeal, and dropped into a cast-iron skillet full of hot grease until each piece crackled golden. Fried okra was Southern comfort in its purest form, the slime of the raw vegetable transformed by heat and cornmeal into something crunchy and addictive. Elvis ate it by the plateful, straight from the skillet while it still spat oil. The cook would salt it heavily and pile it high, and he would work through the whole batch without slowing down. It was cheap, it was greasy, and it went with everything else on this list. A single serving carried more fried cornmeal and hot oil than a modern doctor would allow in a week. Elvis ate it like a side dish and treated the side dishes like main courses. Number 17. Cornbread crumbled in buttermilk. This one makes people stop and stare, but for Elvis, it was pure heaven. He would take a wedge of leftover cornbread, crumble it into a tall glass of cold buttermilk, and eat the whole thing with a spoon like a bowl of cereal. The cornbread soaked up the sour, tangy milk and turned into a thick, curdled porridge that tasted like a poor man's supper from 100 years back. Buttermilk cost pennies. Cornbread was already on the counter. This was the food of sharecroppers and mill workers, of people who had nothing else, and Elvis loved it until the day he died. He would eat it late at night, standing in the kitchen at Graceland in his pajamas, spooning it up while the rest of Memphis slept. Number 16. Well-done pork chops. Elvis did not want his meat pink. He wanted it cooked hard, brown all the way through, fried in a skillet until the edges went crisp and the fat rendered into something you could crunch. Pork chops were a staple at his table, seasoned simple with salt and pepper and cooked in the same grease that fried everything else in that kitchen. He would eat 2 or 3 at a sitting, dragging each bite through gravy or applesauce. A cook who tried to serve him a chop with any give to it learned fast. It went back to the skillet. Elvis liked his food the way he liked it in Tupelo, cooked to death and swimming in fat, and no amount of money ever changed that taste. Number 15. Fried squirrel. This is the one that shows how far back his appetite reached. As a boy in Mississippi, meat came from wherever you could find it, and that often meant the woods. Squirrel, shot clean and skinned, was dredged in seasoned flour and fried in a skillet exactly like chicken, then sometimes simmered in a pan of milk gravy until the tough little pieces went tender. It was gamey, greasy, and free, and for a family scraping by, it was protein that did not cost a dime. Elvis remembered that taste his whole life. It was the flavor of survival, of a childhood where every scrap mattered. The king of rock and roll started out eating whatever his father could carry home from the woods, and that hunger never fully let go of him. Number 14. Burnt bacon. Here is number 14, the one his own cook thought she had ruined. Elvis did not want bacon crisp. He wanted it cremated. Mary Jenkins, who cooked at Graceland for years, learned to fry his bacon until it was nearly black, hard as a cracker, snapping in half when you bent it. The first time she cooked it soft and chewy the way most people like it, he sent it back. He wanted it burnt to the edge of charcoal, the fat rendered completely out, the strips curled and brittle. And he did not want 2 or 3. He wanted a pound of it at a time, a whole plate of blackened bacon that he would eat with his hands. The smell of it filled the kitchen at all hours, because Elvis kept no schedule. When he wanted bacon at 4 in the morning, the pound of bacon got fried. Number 13. Fudge brownies. Elvis had a sweet tooth that never quit, and dense, fudgy brownies were near the top of the list. Not the cakey kind. He wanted them heavy, almost undercooked in the middle, so rich they were closer to fudge than to cake. His cooks baked them in big pans and cut them thick, and he would eat several at a time, often chased with a glass of ice-cold milk or a Pepsi. Sugar was a constant presence in that house, a cabinet always stocked, a dessert always ready, no matter the hour. For a man burning through his days and nights with no rhythm to them, a pan of brownies was fuel and comfort at once. He ate them like a boy who had finally been told he could have all the candy he wanted. First pattern break. Here is where the story stops being about food and starts being about a kitchen that never closed. At Graceland, the cooks worked in shifts around the clock, because Elvis kept the hours of a man who had turned day into night. He might sleep until the afternoon and want breakfast at 10 in the evening. He might come off a stage at 2 in the morning wired and starving. Whatever he wanted, however strange the hour, the kitchen made it. Mary Jenkins and the other cooks kept the refrigerator stocked with everything he might crave so that no request would ever be met with a no. Peanut butter by the case, bacon by the pound, ground beef always thawing. This was not a house where anyone said, "Maybe you have had enough." This was a house built to say yes every single time, and that yes is what slowly killed him. Number 12. Banana pudding. This was Southern dessert royalty, and Elvis treated it like a birthright. Layers of vanilla wafers, sliced bananas, and a thick homemade custard, topped with a cloud of meringue browned in the oven. His cooks made it in big glass dishes, and he would eat bowl after bowl, the wafers gone soft and cakey where they soaked up the custard overnight. Banana pudding is comfort food in the deepest sense, sweet and creamy and heavy, the kind of thing served at church suppers and family reunions across the South. Elvis had it made constantly, and he never ate a modest portion. The bananas, the wafers, the sugar, the cream, all of it stacked calories into a man who was already carrying far too many, one gorgeous glass dish at a time. Number 11. Pound cake. They called it pound cake because the old recipe used a pound of butter, a pound of sugar, a pound of flour, and a pound of eggs, and Elvis loved a version so rich it lived up to the name. Dense, buttery, with a crackling golden crust and a tight, moist crumb, it was the kind of cake that sat heavy in your hand like a brick. He was said to be particular about it, wanting it made a certain way, and a good pound cake could disappear fast in that house. Sliced thick and eaten plain or with a scoop of ice cream, it was pure butter and sugar in solid form. This was not a dessert you ate a sliver of. Elvis ate it the way he ate everything, without breaks, because nobody around him was willing to pump them. Number 10. Whole pizzas. By the 1970s, Elvis had discovered the joy of ordering entire pizzas and treating them as a personal meal. Thick crust, heavy cheese, layers of grease pooling in the pepperoni cups, cut into slices he could fold and eat one after another. A whole pie that was meant to feed a family became a snack for one man. This was the era when his weight was climbing hard, when the trim young rocker of the 1950s had vanished behind a heavier, swollen frame. The pizzas did not help. They were late-night food, ordered when the cravings hit and the hour was strange. Another few thousand calories loaded onto a body that was already straining. Elvis ate like the appetite of 10 men lived inside him, and a single pizza barely made a dent. Number 9. ice cream by the box, Nutty Buddies, Klondike bars, Fudgesicles. Elvis kept a freezer stocked with ice cream and ate it constantly, often several at a time, unwrapping one after another until the box was gone. The Nutty Buddy, that cone of vanilla ice cream dipped in chocolate and rolled in chopped peanuts, was a particular favorite, and it was reported to be one of the very last things he ever ate. Ice cream was easy, cold, sweet, and endless, and in a house where nothing was ever denied, endless is exactly what he had. He would eat it in bed, watching television at 4 in the morning, working through the freezer while the whole world outside imagined the king was living some glamorous life. The truth was a man alone with a box of ice cream and no one to tell him to stop. Second pattern break. Here is the thing nobody wants to say out loud about Elvis Presley. He never stopped eating like a poor boy. Every food on this list, the peas, the cornbread, the squirrel, the burnt bacon, the fried everything, comes straight out of a childhood of hunger in Depression-era Mississippi. When you grow up with an empty plate, food stops being fuel and becomes something else. It becomes safety. It becomes love. And when that boy suddenly has all the money in the world and a kitchen that will cook anything at any hour, he does not eat like a millionaire. He eats like a starving child who finally got the keys to the pantry and cannot believe his luck. Elvis had the taste of Tupelo and the wallet of a king, and that combination was a slow-moving disaster. He was not eating badly because he was reckless. He was eating badly because for the first time in his life, nobody could tell him no. Number 8. Cheeseburgers by the dozen. Elvis did not order a cheeseburger. He ordered a pile of them. Thick patties fried hard in a skillet, melted American cheese, buns toasted in the grease, and he would eat them stacked one after another until a normal person would have quit 3 burgers back. Ground beef was always thawing in that kitchen for exactly this reason. When the craving hit, the cooks fired up the skillet and started flipping. There were nights he would put away half a dozen without blinking. Each one carried a small mountain of fat and salt and beef, and he ate them like popcorn. This was the appetite that turned a lean young man into a heavy one greasy burger at a time, in a house where the next burger was always already cooking. Number 7. Biscuits and sawmill gravy. Fluffy southern buttermilk biscuits, split open and drowned in sawmill gravy, that thick white sauce made from pork drippings, flour and milk, studded with crumbled sausage and a hard hit of black pepper. This was breakfast the way the rural South did it. Calorie-dense and built to fuel a day of hard labor. Elvis was not doing hard labor. He was eating a field hand's breakfast and then lying down. The gravy soaked into the biscuits until they turned soft and heavy, and he would eat plate after plate. Biscuits and gravy is one of the richest breakfasts in the American South, the kind of meal that sticks to your ribs for hours. For Elvis, it stuck to more than that. It was fat over starch over fat, served hot, served often, and never once questioned. Number 6. Southern fried chicken. Bone-in pieces soaked in buttermilk, dredged in seasoned flour, and fried in a deep skillet of hot grease until the skin turned dark gold and shattered when you bit it. Fried chicken was sacred in Elvis's world, the centerpiece of Sunday dinners and the taste of home cooking done right. His cooks made it the traditional way, crispy and greasy and hot, and he would go through piece after piece, the skin crackling, the grease running down his hands. There was nothing fancy about it, and that was the point. This was food from the same tradition as everything else he loved, cooked in fat, eaten in quantity, tied to a childhood where a fried chicken dinner meant things were going well. He ate it like a celebration, even when it was just a Tuesday. Number 5. Mashed potatoes and gravy. Buttery mashed potatoes, whipped smooth with cream and more butter than anyone would admit to, piled high and flooded with gravy. This was on his table constantly, the reliable, soft comfort food that went beside the pork chops and the meatloaf and the fried chicken. Elvis loved the texture of it, the way it needed no chewing, the way it soaked up gravy and turned into pure warm starch. His cooks made it rich, the potatoes loaded with dairy until they were less a vegetable than a delivery system for butter. He ate mountains of it. In a diet already drowning in fat and starch, the mashed potatoes were the quiet, constant background, the thing that showed up at nearly every meal and pushed the calorie count higher without anyone even noticing it was there. Third pattern break. Here is where the story turns dark. By the mid-1970s, Elvis Presley's body was failing, and the food was only part of it. He was taking a staggering number of prescription medications, uppers to perform and downers to sleep, a chemical roller coaster that wrecked his metabolism and his judgment. The pills killed his sense of when he was full. The food filled the hours the pills left empty. His weight climbed past anything healthy. His health collapsed in slow motion, and everyone around him watched it happen. The man who once moved like electricity on stage could barely move at all. On August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley died at Graceland at the age of 42. He was found on the bathroom floor. The official causes were tangled: heart failure at the center, with obesity and the years of pills and this exact diet all pressing down on a body that simply could not take anymore. He was 42 years old. Number 4. Chicken fried steak. A cheap cut of beef, pounded thin, breaded like fried chicken, and fried hard in a skillet, then buried under a ladle of thick, peppery cream gravy. Chicken fried steak is one of the great excesses of Southern cooking. Meat treated like fried chicken and then drowned in a sauce made of fat and milk and flour. Elvis loved it, and it fit his table perfectly. A slab of fried, gravy-soaked meat that carried enough calories for an entire day in a single serving. He ate it with the mashed potatoes, with more gravy, with biscuits on the side. There was a theme to everything he loved, and this dish was the theme distilled, every element fried, then covered in cream. It tasted like home, and it hit his arteries like a hammer. Number 3. The fried peanut butter and banana sandwich. Here is number 3. The food that became his signature, still made by fans around the world today. 2 slices of white bread, a thick layer of peanut butter, a whole sliced banana, and then the crucial step. The whole thing fried in a skillet full of butter until golden and crisp on both sides. The banana went soft and hot, the peanut butter melted into it, and the buttery crust crackled around the sweet, gooey center. Some versions added bacon, because of course they did. This was the sandwich that defined Elvis's eating, the perfect storm of bread and fat and sugar and peanut butter fried in even more butter. His cooks made them constantly. He ate them at all hours. Decades after his death, diners still put the Elvis on the menu, and every one of them is a little monument to how the king ate himself into an early grave. Number 2. Meatloaf. This was his everyday food, the dish his cooks say he wanted made available almost constantly. A dense loaf of ground beef bound with egg and bread and seasoning, baked until firm, glazed on top, sliced thick and served with, naturally, mashed potatoes and gravy. Meatloaf was the workhorse of the Graceland kitchen, the reliable heavy meal that Elvis returned to again and again. His mother, Gladys, had made it when he was a boy, and the taste tied him straight back to her, to the woman he loved more than anyone on earth and lost far too young. So the meatloaf was never just meatloaf. It was comfort and memory and mother served on a plate, and he ate it like it could bring something back. It could not. But he kept eating it anyway, day after day, until the very end. Number 1. The Fool's Gold Loaf. And here it is, the sandwich worth a 1,000-mile flight at 2 in the morning. The Fool's Gold Loaf came from a restaurant in Denver called the Colorado Mine Company, and it was madness in edible form. Take 1 entire loaf of Italian bread, hollow it out, coat the inside with butter and bake it. Then fill the whole thing with an entire jar of creamy peanut butter, an entire jar of blueberry jam, and a full pound of crisp bacon. The finished loaf held something like 8,000 calories, more than most people eat in 3 days, packed into a single sandwich meant for one man. In February of 1976, Elvis got a craving for them at Graceland. So he loaded his friends onto his private jet, the Lisa Marie, and flew from Memphis to Denver in the middle of the night. The restaurant met the plane on the tarmac with 22 Fool's Gold loaves. And there, on the runway, without ever leaving the airport, Elvis and his entourage sat and ate them, washing them down with soda and champagne before flying home. It is the perfect final image, a man with everything, flying across the country in the dark, chasing a loaf of bread stuffed with peanut butter and bacon, filling a hunger that no meal on this earth was ever going to satisfy. 18 months later, he was gone. Here is my challenge. Look at this list and notice something. Almost none of it is exotic. It is fried. It is sweet. It is Southern. And it is exactly what a poor boy from Tupelo would have dreamed about eating if he ever got rich. Elvis got rich. And then he ate the dream until it killed him. Drop a comment and tell me which one shocked you most: the burnt bacon, the cornbread and buttermilk, or the fool's gold loaf. Because these were not just meals. They were the story of a man who was never really hungry for food at all.